afternoon. I think that's what they call it. John, are you there? Sorry about a couple minutes late. Someone needed to go outside, and it was an opportunity to kind of, and this is where the whole sausage is made kind of thing, just so you know. It is it's a day that really for soccer here in this particular part of the country and really in soccer in general is a very, very special day. And it was the, it's not a christening, it's a ribbon cutting. And so you had the ribbon cutting for the Arthur M. Blank. Hang on just a second here. Sorry, kind of doing this on the fly. The Arthur M. Blank U.S. Soccer National Training Center. And it was a really cool day for the sport and a really cool day for for those here in this footprint to see where the sport has gone and to see where it is and to have a moment like we had today where you have this assemblage of, and let me grab my notes here. So, because we get like official releases, it's like, okay, so when you walk through and you get to see what's going on, you gotta, you have to show your name and all this kind of stuff at the door. So it was an opportunity to see Cindy Parlow Cone, U.S. Soccer President, CEO JT Batson, USWNT Head Coach Emma Hayes, Arthur M. Blank, Dan Cathy, founder and chief visionary at Trilith, and then B. Perez, the EVP and Global Chief Communications, Sustainability, and Strategic Partnerships Officer for Coca-Cola. And it was, they got to kind of introduce the whole afternoon and get into what it means for the whole thing. And then we got to catch up with Mr. Blank. We got to catch up with JT Batson, got to catch up with Cindy Parlow Cone, and got to catch up with Emma Hayes. And so wanted to play some of that for you here because this is the post-presentation, post-ribbon cutting scrum. And just wanted to kind of let you in on what the questions were and the ribbon cutting and all this kind of stuff. We're going to have more content over, obviously, at soccerdownhere.net and on socials and all of that with Maddie and Jason and Vanessa, who were there and incredibly busy the entire time. So what I wanted to do was kind of get you into what was going on and just to kind of let you in the door and kind of hear what was going on this afternoon. So and we got to get into that too. So we got to get into alleged spying. Let's put it that way. So if we go alleged spying, and then you have another team that apparently has folks that don't like each other, and we now have those teams on investigation. So we've got to get into that this afternoon as well. So a couple of let me get into headlines, and then we'll get into sound, and then we'll get to hear what's going on in and around the planet. We've got Europa League this afternoon, and we got to get into that. So actually, tell you what, let's see. So if that's up and running, so I'm not watching this. Let me go here. So Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest in Europa League. It is 4 minutes gone, second half. Ollie Watkins has scored, and so now Villa and Forest are tied at 1, and that's where we are with that. And then that means that Conference League, I think, is today too, isn't it? So let me see what Conference League score is, and we will we'll see. So Europa League, you've got Villa leading Nottingham Forest 1-0, Freiburg leading Braga by the score of 2-0. Those are your Europa League moments that are going on right now. And then in Europa Conference League, also going on right now, Happy to Be Here FC, Crystal Palace leading Shakhtar Donetsk by the score of 2-1. Rayo Vallecano on the road leading Strasbourg by the score of 1-0. Both of those are in the 54th minute as well. Okay, so we'll update those as we go. We're probably going to go, about an hour and a half or so hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. We'll figure it out. But wanted to get you to kind of update you on afternoon news, and then we were going to play some of the interviews that we got to hear from the afternoon. So hang on, I'm also trying to book guests as we go. So hang on just a second. So yes, as David says, sausage for the afternoon. And okay. All right. So we might be getting some guests also attached to all of this. So we'll keep you posted. All right. So here's what's going on involving spying. We'll go spying, and then teams that have people that don't like each other very much, and then we'll get into also what happened with the team that has teammates that don't like. So here we go. Middlesbrough. Okay, now this is from Ben Fisher at The Guardian. So Ben Fisher at The Guardian has this going on. Middlesbrough, and this is within the hour. Middlesbrough are suspecting that Southampton might be they are alleging spying is what they're alleging. So Ben Fisher says that they are alleging spying now. You have alleged spying, and like I said, it's alleged spying. So it is. Where was my thing here? Not them. All right. So let me. All right. So I've got to find it first. So, not there. So where was it? I saw it a second ago. So Southampton and Middlesbrough, they're trying to get into the. They're both trying to get into the Premier League. So, let me just do Southampton, and then get into the Fisher piece. So, it is alleged, and this is as of a little less than an hour ago. EFL has written Southampton requesting. This is from Lyle Thomas at Sky Sports. EFL has written Southampton requesting their observations following a complaint from Middlesbrough alleging spying on their training session at Rockcliffe today ahead of the playoff semifinal. And so the story goes, and this is literally, you have Middlesbrough accusing members of the Saints coaching staff of spying on training ahead of the championship playoff. So Middlesbrough has made a formal complaint to the EFL alleging a man they believe to be a Southampton member of staff was spying on their training session on Thursday ahead of the first leg of the championship playoff semis between the two teams. And I know this may shock you. EFL rules strictly prohibit opponents spying on training sessions less than 72 hours before kickoff, a rule brought in following a Spygate incident in 2019. And this was the whole Bielsa thing when he was at Leeds. And then Marcelo Bielsa calls a hastily called press conference. They send word out, okay, press conference Bielsa, with all this stuff going on. And everybody's like, oh, Bielsa's going to resign. He's going to resign. And it ends up being one of the most glorious PowerPoint presentations you've ever seen about why Marcelo Bielsa doesn't need to spy. It goes for like 2.5 hours to all the assembled media room. It was fantastic. So 7 years ago, Bielsa admitted sending a member to staff to spy on Derby. Leeds was fined £200,000 following an investigation. Borough plays Southampton semifinal Saturday at Riverside, lunchtime. EFL Rule 127 brought in on prohibited conduct observing training sessions. Quote, without prejudice to the requirements of Regulation 3.4, that each club shall behave towards each other club with the utmost good faith. No club shall directly or indirectly observe or attempt to observe another club's training session in the period of 72 hours prior to any match scheduled to be played between those respective clubs. If it's more than 72, is it still okay to spy? Allegedly? Regulation 3.4 says, in all matters and transactions relating to the league, each club shall behave towards each other and the league with the utmost good faith. EFL spokesperson says EFL has written to Southampton requesting their observations, unauthorized filming alleged with the two clubs. Alleged incident is said to have taken place on Middlesbrough's private property by an individual identified to be associated with Southampton. The league is treating the matter with as potential misconduct under EFL regulations and will be making no further comment at this time. And both teams, once again, were reached for comment, and neither have said diddly about it. So that was that one. That was that particular incident. So now you've also got what is going on in Real Madrid, which is borderline insane, but I don't know if we should necessarily be surprised or not. So this comes in once again after Real Madrid makes an official statement, and this was about an hour ago. So Real Madrid saith the following. Real Madrid announces following the events that took place this morning in the first team training session, it has decided to open disciplinary proceedings against our players, Federico Valverde and Aurelien Tchouameni. The club will announce the resolutions of both cases in due course once the corresponding internal procedures have been completed. So, investigation. Now, more came out from the club. Following tests carried out today on our player Fede Valverde by the Real Madrid Medical Services, he has been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. Villa player goes down in the box. Ricky's kind of doing. Ricky's doing observations. By the way, afternoon Ricky and let's see, afternoon Hutch, I believe. Yes. So afternoon Hutch and afternoon Ricky. So we have the Europa League bottles thrown on the ground. 57th minute discussions, Villa, Forest. So following tests carried out today on our player Fede Valverde by the Real Madrid Medical Services, he has been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. Valverde is home in good condition and have to remain at rest for 10 to 14 days, as indicated by the medical protocols for this diagnosis. Goal, Aston Villa 2-0. So that is in the 58th minute, and Villa is now up 2-1 in the aggregate. So Federico Valverde was diagnosed with a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, and he's going to have to rest at home for 10 to 14 days. So that is the news out of Real Madrid this afternoon. So, and you sit there and you look under social media, you go, Real Madrid fight. So here's apparently what has happened over the last couple of weeks. According to reports from, and this is from a source close to the club. Don't let Sky get a hold of this stuff. So in the last few weeks, here's what has allegedly happened at Real Madrid. Rudiger slaps Alvaro Carreras. The team had to stop them. A few weeks later, Rudiger was screaming at Carreras to the point the team had to force Rudiger to apologize. Carreras confirmed the incident through a story on Instagram. Tchouameni Valverde get into a fight 2 days in a row. Valverde had to be taken to hospital. Mbappe, and this is, like I said, this is Madrid zone, so take it for what it is. Mbappe gets into a verbal fight with one of the members of the coaching staff. To me, I'm kind of like, Real Madrid reduced the tactical work in training. Leak coming from inside the dressing room. Multiple players in the dressing room are not happy with each other's efforts. So it was alleged that it is a dressing room fight. So this is David Ornstein. So Ornstein earlier today, in discussing this, Valverde and Tchouameni involved in a dressing room fight at the training ground on Thursday, one day after an earlier altercation between the pair. Sources briefed on what unfolded, speaking on the condition of anonymity to protect relationships, said Valverde was taken to hospital to undergo assessments after sustaining a head injury during the incident. And then statement happens. The statement occurred that we just read. And diagnosed with a cranioencephalic traumatism. It's a TBI. I had never seen cranioencephalic traumatism before, but a CET is basically a TBI, traumatic brain injury, according to our friends at the Mayo Clinic. So you had that. So that was that went down today as well. So you have teammates fighting, one apparently going to hospital, and it is Yeah, and so now you have the investigation of disciplinary action with the fight and all that stuff with whoa, yeah, that was offside. Goodness gracious. He was quite offside. Not 3-1. But yeah, so if you are looking for anything resembling observations during the Aston Villa match currently going on, please keep an eye on the Twitch pitch. Ricky's got that one covered for you. 2-0, 30 minutes to go, up 2-1 in the aggregate. So let's get you into the news of the afternoon. Bayern Munich opened talks with Newcastle over a potential summer move for Anthony Gordon. Newcastle's listening to offers for the winger this summer. They expect they want to explore his options. Keen on the 25-year-old since the turn of the year. His agents, Gordon's agents, have also been pictured in Barcelona in recent days. No direct contact between Barca and Newcastle yet. Manchester City, according to Lyle Thomas, in talks with Josko Vardiol about a new long-term contract, despite the defender still recovering from a fractured tibia. Yeah, tib-fib fractures are never fun. Personal observation. I've had it. They're not good. After tying Phil Foden down to a new deal this week, remember that was a 4+1. City hoping to do the same with the center back, even though he's been sidelined since January. He's had surgery, instrumental in their team up until the injury against Chelsea. And they want to extend his deal beyond the current 2028 expiry and improve the salary since joining from RB Leipzig in 2023. 120 appearances, all comps, 13 plus 10, and versatility to play center back and left back and runs down the left-hand side. Yeah, and Ricky with the observation on the Classico coming up. We'll get into that in a second. Madrid also interested in Matt O'Reilly at Brighton. Simeone has retained his admiration for the midfielder since making a £20 million bid to sign him in January 24. While he was at Celtic, they're looking for more depth in the midfield ahead of next season, along with several other La Liga clubs. O'Reilly is seen as an attractive addition. Serie A also thought to be looking at O'Reilly. Champions League pedigree, impressed while on loan at Marseille earlier this year, plus his time at Celtic. Used sparingly by Fabian Hertzler, since the club paid more than $25 million to sign him from Celtic in the summer of 24. Unused sub in the away defeat at Newcastle at the weekend, has just appeared in 6 of the 14 league matches since his January recall. Fabian Hertzler officially signed his new deal, a 3-year contract, and due to expire in the summer of 27. Now it's the summer of 29. Leverkusen was interested. Now they can't have him. Rob Dorsett at Sky, Villa and several other Premier League clubs interested in doing a deal for Harry Wilson from Fulham, out of contract this summer, and Fulham want to extend his deal. Wilson keen to explore his options, especially because of the uncertainty over the future of manager Marco Silva. 29-year-old right now, destined to stay in England. You've got a lot of teams in Europe who are looking to talk, and Sky Sports told those options unlikely to be able to match the financial package on an offer in the Premier League. De Zerbi wants Joao Palhinha to stay at Spurs, on loan currently from Bayern Munich. And he was front and center for the victory over Villa last weekend. Asked if he wants Palhinha to stay behind the season, De Zerbi said 100%. Have to start from these types of people. More than players, we need reliable people and reliable players. So he's very positive on Joao Palhinha. Bunny Shaw expected to leave Man City when her contract expires at the end of the season, despite winning the WSL title last night. 110 goals, 133 appearances for City since joining from Bordeaux in 2021. Interest in Shaw from Chelsea and also from the United States, apparently, according to Lyle Thomas at Sky. Set to win the Golden Boot for a third straight year, 19 goals in 21 games. So obviously you've got your previews coming up this weekend in the EFL Championship. Bayer Leverkusen showing strong interest in Burnley defender Maxime Esteve. 2 clubs in the Premier League also keen on the left-footed center back. He has started every Premier League game except 3 around the Christmas period. French U23 international, 98 appearances for Burnley since signing from Montpellier initially on loan. Arsenal are apparently monitoring Marcus Rashford, according to the 4-letter paper, on loan at Barcelona. Doubts whether the La Liga leaders will make his move permanent for a reported £26 million. Report states Arsenal and Bayern Munich attentive to Rashford's situation ahead of the summer transfer window. 13 goals, 46 matches in all comps for Barcelona. And they have until June 15th to trigger the option to buy. Arsenal set to hold contract talks with Mikel Arteta. No surprise there. Amad Diallo says the players want Michael Carrick to stay on as the head coach at Manchester United next season. Ben Mee has announced his retirement from football at the age of 36. Announced his decision live on Sky after leaving Sheffield United. Went to the Blades last year after a year from Brentford, best known with his 11 years at Burnley, 360 appearances, all comps. And Manchester United, according to the three-letter paper, have no plans to reintegrate Marcus Rashford into their first team next year. And like I said, looking for a move at around £26 million. Brentford talking to Salzburg about a young center back, Yannick Schuster. Napoli is looking to sign Rasmus Højlund for Manchester United, triggering the £38 million release clause. And my team announced their retained list, Wimbledon. First big signing for Ipswich coming back into the Prem, Cedric Kipre on a permanent deal from Reims on a 2-year deal. Central defender, spent the season on loan with the Blues. Triggered a deal to make him a town player for an undisclosed fee, 32 league appearances and scoring 4 goals. So that's your early run. All right, let's get into what happened today at the Arthur M. Blank U.S. Soccer National Training Center. It is a day that you're gonna remember, and it is cool beyond words to see something like this happen. Here is just a little bit of the conversation that was had in the post presentation scrum. We'll start with the conversation that was had with Cindy Parlow-Cone and JT Batson over the day and what it means in general for the sport, what it means specifically for U.S. soccer, and what it means here in the footprint. So once again, here's early conversation. Cindy Parlow-Cone, JT Batson from earlier today.
So for you guys talking about the emotion behind this project, I'm just curious what your initial thought was when you walked into the building for the first time.
Quite honestly, I mean, we had looked at all the drawings and all the different things that it could be. I had looked at railings and what railings we were going to put in and the stairways and every little detail. Finally, JT realized to not to bother me with those details, to just take it and run with it, that I trust him. But the first time that I walked in, when it was completed, obviously I did mini tours along the way, but when I walked into the building yesterday, I was thinking that this is exactly what I had always dreamt that it would be. Not only in the number of fields and the quality of the fields, and we have meeting spaces and space for our staff, but in the color scheme, right? In how wide the hallways are, so that our power team can go in their chairs anywhere in the facility. So no matter who you are, what level you're at in our game, you are welcome here, and you should feel at home. You should feel like we're wrapping our arms around you and bringing you in, but also feel the sense of awe and the sense of respect for those that came before you and have helped you build this.
Well, as someone who was involved in most every detail, every time I come, I'm wowed anew. And as excited as I am, what makes me even more joyful is seeing all of our colleagues experience the facility for the first time. Their energy, their excitement, their smiles, and for some of them, their tears as they walk in, this is something they've also dreamt of, and so it's pretty darn cool.
Ken Segura, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I'm curious, you mentioned, I think before, just the foundation of soccer, kids that are 6 years old and playing for the first time. How important is it to get that aspect of it right, the grassroots soccer, to make sure that that this building is worthy of those kids and the effort, their future in soccer?
Well, U.S. Soccer has 3 generational ambitions. We want to win on the world stage. We want to win World Cups and major international tournaments. We want U.S. soccer to be everywhere. We want soccer to be the #1 played sport in every community. And we want everyone who cares about our sport to feel connected to our sport and to feel connected to U.S. soccer. And that starts right at the first steps and your first touch on the ball. So whether you're 3 or 13 or 33 when you're starting with soccer, our goal is to support you in your soccer journey throughout your life. And we're committed to doing that. We've launched the Soccer Forward Foundation to ensure that soccer is everywhere in this country. And we've recently announced the US Way, which is our player development philosophy and strategy to be able to support someone who wants to play for fun, or like Cindy, who wants to win a World Cup and does it. We are focused on making sure everyone has an amazing soccer experience and they have a great time in the sport.
Last couple, 1, 2, and 3.
Jade, also with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This facility today clearly proves that Atlanta, or south of Atlanta, is the home of U.S. soccer. There's discussion out there about Atlanta also being the capital of soccer in America now. There's a little bit of discourse going on about that. Can you let me know why is Atlanta also the capital of soccer in America? And what, if it's not already, what do we need to see from it to get there?
Well, my roots in Atlanta go way back to the Atlanta Beat, right? I played on the Atlanta Beat back in the early 2000s, so I am a huge proponent on it being the capital of soccer in the U.S. And then what Arthur Blank has done here, first with Atlanta United, coming right out of the gates and doing what he did with an expansion team, no one thought it was possible. And now he's bringing an NWSL team here. So I think he's laid the foundation, and obviously the very generous donation that he's given to us to help build what we've built here and what you're all experiencing today for the first time. So I think he's laid the groundwork, and I think together, and as you saw, the whole community, both corporate, philanthropic, and the soccer community joining together and joining arms, I think it's unlike any other city in our country and possibly the world.
Henry Queen, Atlanta Business Chronicle. On the employee side of things, have you been able to convince your talent to move from Chicago to here? And can you remind everyone how many employees would be here?
Sure. So when we started this project, U.S. Soccer had about 200 employees. We now have 600 employees. With the overwhelming majority of those employees being based here in Atlanta. We found in Atlanta an incredible place for talent who's already here, as well as a place where talent wants to move. And you all live here, so you know it. Atlanta has a lot to offer. And we had projections as to how many people we thought we would have when we would move into this space. We've far exceeded those. And part of that's Atlanta. The business environment here, why people want to be here, why people want to raise a family here, why they want to grow their careers here. And so, we couldn't be more pleased to be here, and we couldn't feel more welcome. The way the Atlanta business community has really, lent a hand and helped ensure that we're successful as we launched here has been truly awesome. And, we're excited about all the things we're going to do together.
Last question here.
Batson Cruz of 92.9 The Game and the SDH Network.
Can you speak up a little bit?
This is for both of you guys. There's so much homegrown talent, especially in Georgia, now competing at the highest level in MLS and in the WSL. How important will this facility be, especially in continuing to grow the game here in Georgia?
I mean, you kind of saw it tonight. As we start to open up the facility and have young kids coming here, I think when a lot of people look at this and they think it's just for our 27 national teams, that couldn't be further from the truth. This is for everyone in our soccer community. And so I think JT and I, we both have young kids, and so we're excited about that grassroots effort again. I want to get my kid back into soccer. He just told me he wanted to quit, so I'm like, I got to figure out how to get him back in. But for me, this facility is inspirational and aspirational for young kids. So it's somewhere they can come and see the path to where they want to go, and maybe they see the path and they're like, you know what, that's not for me, but I love this game and I'm going to go in this direction. And we're here to provide that experience, that great soccer experience for whatever they want to go and however they want to experience the soccer journey.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you all.
Cindy Parlow Cohn and JT Batson after the ribbon cutting and the presentation of everything. So it was also part of the discussion, and thank you to both Hutch and to Ricky for giving the aggregates as we go. Freiburg is now up 4-2 in the aggregate in the other Europa League matchup. Crystal Palace, I think, is cruising against Shakhtar and Rayo Vallecano. Hang on. So Rayo Vallecano and Strasbourg last time out was 1-0 Rayo Vallecano. So Crystal Palace is up 5-2 in the aggregate on Shakhtar Donetsk, and Rayo is now up 2-0 on Strasbourg in the aggregate. In Conference League, it is 2-1 Villa in the aggregate on Forest, and it is 4-2 according to Hutch, Freiburg in the aggregate in their matchup. And so while we're keeping an eye on that and trying to check any other notes and news, here is a part of the conversation that was had with Emma Hayes when Emma was brought in to kind of talk through things and talk about the day and being what it was. Now, Emma Hayes being Emma Hayes, when you're called up to the stage to give your thoughts before you send it to the next person in the rundown, Emma was like, no, it's too formal for me. So she literally had her microphone. She took the microphone and she was center stage. She was not behind the dais. Too official for her. She went straight to the middle of the stage and addressed what she was a part of in front of her. And so then obviously after her conversation up there, she came and addressed the assembled media. And here's part of that conversation that Emma Hayes had with the assembled media after the ribbon cutting earlier this afternoon.
Emma Bailey, Burmaster, sports director at Atlanta News First. Nice to meet you. The World Cup, Men's World Cup coming this summer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk that Atlanta could be a place for the Women's World Cup in a few years. What does a building like this do to push the game forward for women's soccer and kind of promote that Atlanta could be a place to host that World Cup?
Yeah, I like you asked that question, and having had the conversation with Arthur Blank earlier on today about the excitement around the NWSL team built off an already traditional soccer hotbed. It's widely understood in the soccer community in this country that Atlanta and Georgia is a soccer place. So to build on that, and considering I drove past the 96 venue the other day, I was personally like, oh my goodness, that was a pivotal moment for me, because that was when my dad told me about the US women's national team. And so if there is a possibility of this being, a major venue for 31, bring that on. That would be amazing. And hopefully with us being here and having a permanent residence here, we too contribute to this already, traditional soccer community.
What are some of Cecily Stout, 13WMAZ in Macon, what are some of your first impressions of the support that so many people have for the women and the men in general from Georgia? You guys played in Atlanta not too long ago for a friendly. The place was packed out. Now you got a place like this. What are some of your first impressions of the support behind U.S. soccer?
Well, first of all, I've heard a lot about this Southern hospitality, and you feel it at the airport, like instantly. And you can't take that for granted. That is something that is truly special about this place. I think just listening to Arthur speak earlier, his passion as a proud father with his son's journey from youth soccer to the collegiate game to pro soccer, there are roots, and you feel that everywhere. But you also have there's such strong brands that have partnered together to build the community, to build the sport, and that's evident today, not just with Arthur Blank, but with Coca-Cola and with Dan Cathy. So for us, we just want to build on that and make this a home where, whether you're an alumni player, whether you are a parent, whether you are a youth national team player, senior national team player, that you get that excitement, that buzz in your stomach when you get off of the plane, you say, I'm going home. That I know is exciting for us to visualize on so many levels. So it's critical for us now that we grow into our house, and we'll slowly fill the place up, but let's enjoy what it is today, and like I said, it's celebrating a real seismic moment in US soccer history today.
Emma Maria Martin, 11 Alive here in Atlanta. You touched on this a little bit just now, but the fact that you guys now have a permanent home, how paramount is that for the growth of national soccer here?
Yeah, I think it's critical. Sometimes it can feel a bit transient, or sometimes we talk about it like, we're a bit of a travelling circus. We're going from different homes all of the time. But obviously a family within that. I think, it was put very eloquently on stage that a home without a kitchen isn't quite the same, and putting together our head office with our teams and our community, when you think about it, like, you think, how has that not happened for so long? But when you consider the size of the task to deliver a project like this in the time that it's been delivered is remarkable. And so I think for everybody today, it doesn't matter who you are, everybody's like, oh my God, we're here. It actually happened. It's now let's live it and enjoy it. And I had a really great conversation with a coach from the extended national team who was just like, this is awesome. You're my colleague. I can't believe we get the chance to like shoot across the hallway and chat coaching. And that's what it's about. It's putting people together that are like-minded but different, and to talk about how we progress our game in this country.
Okay, we'll go 1, 2, and then you got one?
Nope.
Okay, 1, 2, and then we'll end here again. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Hi, Emma. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Madison Cruz with 92.9 The Game and the SDH Network. Kind of similar to what I asked Sydney and JT as well. There are about 21 players from Georgia playing in NWSL currently right now. What will a facility like this do for the growth of the game, especially here in Georgia on the women's side?
Oh, immense. I mean, let's start with 2028. There's going to be an NWSL team here. So it's one thing to aspire towards the national team level, but to aspire to a pro level first is like equally exciting for kids up and down the country to say, hey, listen, I want to be the next Emily Sonnet or Riley Jackson or whomever that might be. And I'll pick two ends of the spectrum. They're not just remote characters that live over there once every 4 years. They're actually here in our backyard. And I believe in that accessibility to feel, and I've said this so many times, I didn't grow up being able to see it or believe. How could I believe something I didn't see? Well, you can see it, you can believe it, and actually you're in a position where you can make it happen. And I think that's something that is very exciting about what's happening in Georgia at this moment in time, is a pro team, and US soccer coming to this wonderful state. It's a big moment in time.
With the World Cup about a month away, we're a stone's throw from the airport, can you speak about how?
All right, so that's a little bit of Emma Hayes in her conversations. And we are, like I said, we are efforting guests here this afternoon and trying to see if we can pin down other folks that were there and have that discussion with them. Wow, that is some stuff. Those are some socks that we're absolutely just kind of taking advantage of. Villa has added a fourth, and they have 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes plus any added time. And I think at this point, if you're Forest party, you might be just sitting there kind of going, can we just kind of go? Can we like leave? I think that'd be great. Asking for a friend. So, just a thought. Yeah, can we kind of like, we're good. All right. So, while we were listening to Emma Hayes, we do have scoring updates, believe it or not. John McGinn has scored like 13 times, and it is now 4-0, 84th minute, and it is 4-1 in the aggregate. So Forest got the one goal at City Ground, and Villa has scored like 17 goals in 3 minutes, and they are in the lead in theirs. Hutch given the update, 86th minute, Freiburg leading 4-3, and it is still 5-2 and 2-0 in Conference League with Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano leading their specific games. Ricky has done the producing work that we know he has done in years past, and we now have an update on Federico Valverde, who has an official statement put out on the Instas, and this is as of about a half hour ago. So we're going to go ahead, and this is from the Touchline via Ricky, and so Touchline's unrivaled football coverage. So Valverde's statement saith the following. Yesterday, I had an incident with a teammate during a training session. The fatigue from competition and the frustration made everything seem blown out of proportion. In a normal locker room, these things can happen and are usually resolved internally without it becoming public knowledge. Clearly, someone here is spreading rumors. And with a season without titles, where Real Madrid is always under scrutiny, everything gets blown out of proportion. Today, we had another disagreement. During the argument, I accidentally hit a table, causing a small cut on my forehead that required a routine visit to the hospital. At no point did my teammate hit me, and I didn't hit him either, although I understand it's easier for you to believe we came to blows or that it was intentional, but that didn't happen. I feel that my anger about the situation, my frustration at seeing some of us struggling to get through the end of the season, giving it our all, pushed me to the point of arguing with a teammate. Paragraph. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry because this situation hurts me. This moment that we're going through is painful. Real Madrid is one of the most important things in my life, and I can't be indifferent to it. The result is an accumulation of things that culminate in a senseless fight, damaging my image and leaving room for doubt that they'll fabricate stories, slander, and add fuel to the fire of an accident. I have no doubt that any disagreements we might have off the field cease to exist on it, and if I have to defend it inside a stadium, I'll be the first. I wasn't going to speak out until the end of the season. We were eliminated from the Champions League, and I kept my anger and resentment to myself. We've wasted another year, and I wasn't in a position to be posting on social media when the only face I had to show was on the field, and I feel that's what I did. That's why I'm the one who's most saddened and pained to be going through this situation that prevents me from playing the next match due to medical decisions. I always gave it my all to the very end, and it hurts me more than anyone not to be able to do so. I'm available to the club and my teammates to collaborate on any decision they deem necessary. That is Valverde on his Instagram, obviously, and translated by our friends at Touchline X on the Twitters. So Valverde says it was an accident. Clearly, somebody is spreading rumors. During the argument, I accidentally hit a table, causing a small cut on my forehead that required a routine visit to the hospital. In their examination, the hospital thought that it was going to be 10 to 14 days before Valverde was going to be available for any kind of increased physical levels / competition. So that's where we are with Valverde. So that was interesting that he has his statement now out on Instagram. And joining us now through fighting traffic and making it back to the home studio, it's Jason.
I don't have a statement on Instagram, no.
No. Valverde does.
What did he have to say?
Translated. Yesterday, I had an incident with a teammate during a training session. The fatigue from competition and the frustration made everything seem blown out of proportion. In a normal locker room, these things can happen and are usually resolved internally without it becoming public knowledge. Clearly, someone here is spreading rumors. And with a season without titles where Real Madrid is always under scrutiny, everything gets blown out of proportion. Today, we had another disagreement. During the argument, I accidentally hit a table, causing a small cut on my forehead that required a routine visit to the hospital. At no point did my teammate hit me, and I didn't hit him either, although I understand it's easier for you to believe we came to blows or that it was intentional, but that didn't happen. Feel that my anger about the situation, my frustration at seeing some of us struggling to get through the end of the season, giving it our all, pushed me to the point of arguing with a teammate. And then he goes on to apologize, and result accumulation of things culminates in a senseless fight, damaging my image and leaving room for doubt that they'll fabricate stories, slander, and add fuel to the fire of an accident. And then
I mean, that's a really good captain, no matter what happened, like right. To come out and say that. And that's why he's the captain of Real Madrid.
Yep.
We don't know what happened. You get all kinds of reporting, all kinds of different ways, and that could go a few different directions. Madrid has had issues this year. There's no way around that. To what degree they've had issues, I don't know. We're not in the locker room. We can't tell you. But there have also been a history of moles in the locker room at Madrid. Jose Mourinho was paranoid about it, and I think basically like wiretapped the facility to see who was talking to who and who was doing what and all that. So this is not new at a club like this. You hate to see it for somebody like Valverde. It's not going to affect him when it comes to the World Cup and Uruguay. But it's a bad look all the way around, and it's a bad look in a bad season where Madrid has been a mess really from the jump. And Xabi Alonso is probably sitting at home, sipping on a drink and just nodding his head.
Mm-hmm. And before you came in and before we had the apology posted, apparently there's spying to be alleged in the EFL Championship.
That's nothing new either.
No, between Southampton and Middlesbrough. So
okay,
the EFL has asked for explanations. So
okay,
we're going to wait on that. But the main reason that I wanted to bring you in today was the reason that we raced to both of our studios from Fayetteville, Georgia. And
it was funny to hear people talking about like Fayetteville and it's so far away. I'm like, y'all,
come on,
y'all stop.
Come on now,
y'all stop. And there's always an anti-South Side bias, and it always drives me crazy. So yes, I have that chip on my shoulder, but I heard a little bit of that today around folks, and I was like, oh boy,
really? You're 20 minutes from the airport.
Yep.
And that was one of the qualifiers on the to-do list for having a facility of this.
Yep.
What U.S. Soccer was looking for. They wanted.
You didn't want to be in Johns Creek, and no offense to Johns Creek, but it is a long way away from the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are bringing in players from all over the world to come train, youth national teams, senior national teams, all of that, you want to be close to the airport, and that was the spot to do it. And it all came together, and it's a huge win for everybody involved. I mean, we heard from Dan Cathy today. We heard from Arthur Blank. You see what they've put together that U.S. Soccer has never ever had. It's really cool to see, and I'm really happy that it's on the south side of town.
I was going to ask, as someone who has grown up there and been a part of the fabric of the South Side, been a part of the fabric of the sport, and seeing it grow in a bunch of different places, to have this moment. I want to go back. I want to go back to what your first response was when we check in at the guard gate. They sit there and it's like they ask who you are. You sit there. It's like, okay, we see it. We check off, and then you go through the gate, and then you kind of take a dip, and then you come up, and then you see the National Training Center. When you brought that dip and you're coming uphill to go park, what was your thought? Because we've seen it in various stages. When you finally got to see that product, what ran through your head?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it probably wasn't until later that it was really running through my head in a different way. We're lucky, and we should never take the stuff for granted that we get to work on a regular basis. I mean, I'm there multiple times a week at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground in Marietta, which is a world-class training ground. A club training ground and a national team headquarters are two different things. There are similarities. It's the U.S. Soccer facility is for a larger group of players, a larger group of staff, a larger group of coaches, a larger group of everything. But I think for me, what hits me, it's not pulling up to the facility, because you knew it was going to be first class. You knew it was going to be amazing. We had seen all the renderings. You knew it was going to be great, and it absolutely lived up to everything that had been promised and talked about. It's for me, and this is very specifically to me, like, it's where it is, and driving out of there is where it hits me more, because, like, I get to Highway 138 and I'm like, yeah, you turn right and you go to Stockbridge, and that's, down where I used to live. And you go down 138 before you get to Stockbridge, and you get to Riverdale, and that's where the first soccer shop was that I ever went to, that Adrian Brooks owned. And you get there and you turn right on 85 and you go down to Fayetteville, and that's where the indoor center was that I used to play at. And, you turn left you get into 138 into Jonesboro, and that's where the YMCA was that I first played soccer at. So, like, that's where it hit me, is getting to Highway 138, which is crazy that it links like so much of my soccer life. Like, now you can go from Highway 138 in Stockbridge. Sorry, Rockdale. I didn't have a whole lot of experience playing in Rockdale County or in Conyers. So, I know 138 goes out there too. I can't include that. But from Stockbridge to Jonesboro to Riverdale, and now all the way over to Union City, which then you go back roads over to the facility. That's my soccer life. So, like, that's where it hits me, and it's a very personal thing, because I would have never guessed when I was that kid walking into Adrian Brooks's soccer shop and renting VHS tapes and playing at the YMCA on the other side of Clayton County that not that much longer in the grand scheme of things, the U.S. Soccer Federation would have its headquarters down the road, like literally down the road. You can say down the road, and it's literally factual in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. Like that's crazy. Because when I started playing, the YMCA in Clayton County, which doesn't exist anymore, sadly, like the YMCA had one or two teams in each age group. Clayton County Youth Soccer, which has had its ups and downs over the years. Clayton County Youth Soccer at that time, there'd usually be like 6 or 8 teams in each age group, and 1 or 2 would be from the Y. And we played at Fort Gillem in Forest Park. And, that was my like first soccer playing experience. And now down the road, U.S. Soccer is going to be housed there, and Maurizio Pochettino and Emma Hayes are going to be working out of there, along with all of the other youth national team coaches and the extended national teams. So for all that to be here in our grand scheme of things, and yes, I've seen people already tweeting like, Fayetteville's not Atlanta. You don't score points that way. It's okay. We know. And don't get into the whole, like, what's Atlanta, what's not Atlanta. And we all know better.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really from here and you've grown up in this area and you've spent your life in this area, Atlanta's the kind of place that we can all say, yes, even if you're in Fayetteville, like, yeah, you're part of the family.
Yeah.
And now U.S. Soccer is part of the family. So it's very cool.
And it's always a treat to hear Mr. Blank tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
And when as a part of the rundown, Cindy Parlow Cone brings up Arthur, and you're supposed to have this Q&A of everything, and Cindy has her card with the questions, and Mr. Blank, he sits there, takes the first question, and he just goes.
Yep.
And the expert storyteller was just off and running, and it was a treat to hear all the different markers that it hit with him, whether you're talking growing up as a father, seeing a son, and seeing all of this progression here. But to see it reflected through Mr. Blank's eyes and his passion and what he was able to express in multiple locations there, I thought that was a treat also.
Yeah. I mean, Arthur could have kept talking and we would have still been waiting, because it would not have been a problem. He's such a good spokesperson for Atlanta, for Georgia, obviously Atlanta United and Atlanta NWSL and the Falcons and now U.S. Soccer and everything else that he's involved in. He's just a good spokesperson for life. I mean, the storyline that he weaved through what he was talking about with the world that we live in today being one that doesn't have as much human connection. And, some of that is technology, some of that is just evolution, some of that is other reasons too. But talking about how he believes in soccer and I think broader just sports in general, just based off how he has constantly treated them and gives back through them. He sees it as a way to make the world a better place. And that's amazing that somebody like him would see that and feel the need for that and have the ability to shape that. And I think the thing that was also talked about, and it's very important to know, and it's why I will always defend what Arthur Blank and his family and their foundation and everybody with AMBSE do. He doesn't just cut a check. And that's something that I don't think people necessarily understand. There are a lot of great philanthropists out there who cut a check and will continue cutting checks. And that's great. And that's amazing. Just the fact that you're giving back in any way is amazing. Arthur goes above and beyond, because it's not just cutting a check. And it was something that Cindy Parlow Cone talked about. Arthur's team became U.S. Soccer's team, and Arthur's people became U.S. Soccer's people. And when things were needed, it was a collaborative effort. And I mean, I can speak from experience just on the other side of it in a grant making process when they gave money to Soccer in the Streets, when I worked for Soccer in the Streets. it wasn't just as simple as cutting a check. Like, they made collaborations even at times when they were not funding our programs. They made collaborations, they made partnerships, they made things happen that benefited the community at large. And that is above and beyond amazing, to not just have the ability and the willingness to cut a big check and to help, but to then offer expertise, to then offer people's connections, to then offer manpower and more bandwidth and all the different things that are needed to make anything big happen. He's always there. And the line that will always stick with me about Arthur Blank, Kasim Reed said it when the team was announced in 2014. He said that the red phone on his desk at the mayor's office went to Arthur Blank. He's always been there for the city. He's always been there for the region. He's always been there to, again, make the world a better place. And this is part of it. And yeah, some people will say like, oh, it's soccer and we get all the cynicism. And look, it's a space to trade in, and I'm sure it gets you clicks and likes to be cynical about it. But I believe in the power of soccer to change the world. I believe in the power of soccer to bring people together. I've seen it firsthand. I've experienced it firsthand. I will always champion that. And yeah, the U.S. Soccer Federation is the governing body for the sport in this country. By having this facility, they will be able to do things that they have never been able to do. They will have conversations inside that building that they have never been able to have because people were not in the same space. They'll be able to have more opportunities for coaching, for referee development, for obviously player development, for extended national teams development. All of the things that allow the game to be in a better place in this country, they now have a home to do that in. And Arthur Blank is helping to make that happen. So yeah, it's helping to build a facility, sure, but it's so much more than that. And that's the sport. That's I think sport in general, but the sport specifically. It does so much more than just have a game and give you something to do for 90 minutes. It's so much more than that. And the fact that he gets that and he understands that and he believes in that is very cool.
And it loops back to what you've been discussing on the website involving Ted Turner. And it's like you have these generational touchstones, I guess, for lack of a better way to phrase it, where you have these individuals that are magnets for the sport, and you have these visionaries. Ted Turner, in one aspect, is a visionary. Now you have Arthur Blank, who's been a visionary for decades now. And to be here with both of those individuals in this part of the world where you understand where these two folks are coming from. I mean, I don't mean to be hyperbolic about it, but I mean, we've been really blessed here in the Southeast to have a Ted Turner and an Arthur Blank as these touchstones that are attached to soccer the way that they have been.
There's a list of people that have transformed this place that we call home. And again, yes, whether it's Decatur or Fayetteville or Stockbridge or Johns Creek or wherever, the greater Atlanta area, there's a few people that have transformed it, and it would not be what it is without them. Arthur is that person right now, and he has been for a good while. Ted Turner was that in some different ways. I think with Ted specifically, he was a little bit, or treated a little bit, as an outsider at times. He was a different guy, and I think his space, his soccer involvement was different too. Robert Woodruff was the guy before those two with Coca-Cola, and that's why you see the Woodruff name on so many different things. And there's so many different things that he funded or Coca-Cola funded or he directed to be funded that don't have his name on them, that don't happen if he didn't understand, I think, that calling, that duty. And I think that's why Atlanta is so unique. And it's hard to explain to people who don't understand it and haven't experienced it. Even if you don't know the history, but you've been here for any period of time, I think you understand that it's different. the mayor right now calls it a group project, and it does feel that way. I think, I've always kind of subscribed to the theory that Atlanta is really good at taking what it has and making it better. And that's just what the city has been. And it's because of the collaborative nature of business, because Atlanta's been a city that has been developed and grown and shaped by business. There are lots of different cities in the world that are shaped by, the church, or shaped by politics, or shaped by other things. Atlanta has been shaped by business, and that's, I think, helped people come together more. I think it's helped people deal with each other's differences a little bit easier. Just all kinds of different things. And I think with Ted specifically, all of those three, Woodruff and Turner and Blank, visionary is absolutely the right way to put it. I think with Ted, he at times was so far ahead of the curve in where things were going, especially in technology, especially in communication, especially in media and broadcast, and all of that overlap. He was way ahead of it, to the point that people didn't see it, and people thought he was crazy, and people like kind of shunned him at times. And I think, one of the big misses in Atlanta history is that Ted Turner wasn't really massively involved in the Olympics when it was here. And that was complicated because he had started the Goodwill Games, which I think did a lot of good and had a lot of good things come from it, but it probably cost him the ability to be more directly involved in one of Atlanta's greatest moments, the Olympics. And that's a huge miss, and that's a shame. But I don't think the Olympics come here if you don't have Ted Turner launching CNN out of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. He wasn't on CNN talking about how great Atlanta was every single day, but everything was originating out of Atlanta at that point. Atlanta was a byline. Atlanta was talked about internationally in ways that it had never really been. And I think the awareness of what Atlanta was changed. And that kind of goes back to the soccer conversation. When the first chief started, and that was before Ted's time, it was a way for the city of Atlanta, for the Chamber of Commerce, for, the tourism and visitors bureaus and all of that to say internationally, like, hey, we have soccer. Mm-hmm. This is something that works in other countries. I didn't really know what it was at that time, but they were able to use that as a way to introduce Atlanta to the rest of the globe. Well, then you kept building on it. And when it came around to the time that soccer had grown past that first point, and the Chiefs, the original Chiefs that were funded by the Braves under different ownership before Ted was involved, they stopped funding it after the 1972 season. The league then had the explosion with Pelé coming and other players coming, and then franchises were in demand and people wanted to get back in. And what kind of shows you, I think, Ted, again, being ahead of the curve, is he partnered with Dick Cecil and Al Thornwell and funded it to go buy a team. He had looked at a couple different teams in the league. He'd already bought the Braves by this point. I think he'd bought the Hawks by this point as well. He funded the acquisition of the team. He put it on WTCG at the time, and I don't think it had completely transitioned to TBS yet. No. He basically was a silent partner at first, and he believed in it. Absolutely, as I wrote in the article yesterday, he saw it as TV programming. He saw the Braves as TV programming at first. He saw the Hawks as TV programming, the Flames, it was about the TV. Which is kind of funny now because that's where a lot of sports are. It's about the TV. Mm-hmm. He saw that in the late 70s. Atlanta was a very different place then, too. I mean, the Braves weren't drawing. The Braves were terrible at that time before you got to 82 where they had the miracle season. Then they were terrible again for a long time. So there wasn't a whole lot of fans there for anything. The soccer team was part of that conversation, but he funded it. And he wrote a $1.5 million check at that time. When he was launching CNN at this time, if you know his story, he was scraping together every single dollar he could find to make payroll, to keep going. He always bet on himself. And it's so funny that people made snide comments when the Time Warner thing, and especially when the AOL side of it came into it and he lost control of the company. But like, oh, well, he shouldn't have done that, whatever. He bet on his company and his ability to navigate these things 50 times up to that point, and it won every time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he kind of got outmaneuvered at the end, but that wasn't necessarily his fault because a lot of people overbet on AOL at that time.
That is true.
So he wasn't the only one. But with soccer, he put $1.5 million on the table, was a silent partner with bringing the Atlanta Chiefs back at first until it became public in financial disclosures. He didn't continue it after the 1981 season, so they played 3 years, and he was right. It wasn't going anywhere. The league folded 3 seasons later. I've seen some of the documents in Dick Cecil's archives that are over at Emory University in the Rose Library. I've seen some of the documents of some of the plans that, you know, Dick Cecil with Atlanta and Lamar Hunt with Dallas were trying to find a way to get through to the rest of the league. Stop spending more money than you're bringing in. You're going to go broke. It seems obvious to me, but it didn't work. So at that point, you know, he was kind of like, I'm not doing it anymore. And he also needed the capital at that point because, again, he was scraping together every dollar. He needed the capital to start CNN 2, which became headline news, which now isn't what it used to be, but was a massive part of CNN's growth. So he bet on the right thing. But here's the other thing that gets forgotten all the time. He put $7.5 million down for the World Cup viewing rights in 1990 to put it on TNT. That was right over there. That poster's right there.
Mm-hmm.
$7.5 million in 86. That poster's right there. NBC had some of it. ESPN had some of it, but it was scattered and it wasn't really handled well and all that. And nobody bought the rights in 90. He put $7.5 million down, which is a lot of money in 1990 TV rights.
Yeah.
And for something that nobody really knew what it would do. And I think they aired almost 30 games, if I'm not mistaken. You know, it's the other one that I figured out in my research. He was being trying to be talked into buying Arsenal in the early 90s, which was fascinating. But the TBS stock, they didn't want to do too much with risking it because the Time Warner stuff was looming. So it didn't ever come off. I don't know if Arsenal would have ever went for that back then anyway, because that was a very different time with American ownership. Now everybody's got American ownership, so that's nothing new. It's fascinating that Ted, who for a lot of the same things that Arthur sees in sports about how it brings people together and how it makes the planet a smaller place and all of those things, Ted thought the same way in general. Now, Ted saw it through a television lens, which was different than Arthur. But we all watched Ted Turner and Jane Fonda in the stands as the Braves did get good and what it meant. And it wasn't fake. Like, that was real emotion of what it meant to see, you know, their team win. He risked his life as a yachtsman with the America's Cup, which when you look at Ted Turner's like accomplishments in his life, it is the craziest set of accomplishments of all time. Won America's Cup, won a boat race that had people die in it.
Yeah.
Multiple boats were lost in a race after America's Cup that he won. And he, in the documentary, you have to watch it on HBO Max if you have not seen it. He was the one who did the overnight shift, holding on to the wheel of this thing as it's getting like battered by waves that are 2 stories high. And he's like latched to the side of the boat so he doesn't go flying over it. And he's the one in the middle of the night holding this thing together. He did that. He started CNN, which
I was gonna say, that's kind of a piece of irony that you mentioned
know,
that way.
And that's all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, the boat race was in 1979. CNN hit the airwaves in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
He owned the Atlanta Braves at this point. He owned the Atlanta Chiefs at this point. He owned the Atlanta Hawks at this point. he then gave $1 billion to the United Nations Foundation. $1 billion.
Mhm.
He started the Captain Planet Foundation, which was amazing. He was way ahead of the curve on environmental causes. He brought back a nearly extinct species,
Mm-hmm.
the American buffalo. And yeah, now Ted's Montana Grill is a great place to get some American buffalo, but that's a different conversation. It was nearly extinct. He brought it back. Like, just that. Yachtsman risked his life to win a race, started what now there's a bunch of different imitators of 24-hour news. Bought into the cable industry and changed that forever. Bought into pro sports and changed those forever, especially on the broadcast side. $1 billion to the UN Foundation. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah.
That's one man's life.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool that one of the things that touched me the most yesterday about it was the statement from Arthur Blank. You know, like, I'd never really thought about it, that they never were in the same circles. They led very different lives, but they did have a lot in common. And Montana and conservation for land and, the wilderness and that, like, that's very central to both of them beyond the pro sports ownership side. So it was very cool to see that and to see a picture of both of them. In our lifetimes, those are the two most important people in making Atlanta what it is today. And we're lucky that, you and I and everybody out there listening has had the chance to, even if you knew it or you didn't know it, see their impact up close.
Was there anything in your research that you couldn't fit into the Ted Turner article yesterday?
No, there's a lot of, if you're doing an article about Ted Turner in general, good luck. You're probably gonna need a whole lot of time. He's just a fascinating individual. He's one of the great people from the United States in history. He just is. So on the soccer side, there's I could have went deeper into some of the paperwork and some of the ways that things happened with the Chiefs, but the most important thing is just he saw the opportunity. He had control of the dates at the stadium at that point because of the Braves. That had actually come over from the Braves' initial move to Atlanta under Bill Bartholomew, and then when Ted bought the Braves to keep them in Atlanta, because Ted Turner doesn't, and at that point, again, he didn't have $10 million to buy the Braves. He barely had $1 million to put down on it. And, he's rubbing nickels together in 1976 to get the $1 million to keep the team in town, basically. Same with the Hawks, all of it. And he was able to have control of the stadium and all the different things with that. It's, I'm trying to think of anything else on the soccer side specifically. Nothing that I can think of directly. It was so striking to me that he was completely cool in this case with just staying in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that more often than you think. He got dragged out in front and he was okay in those situations and always had some wild quotes in press conferences and things. And some amazing quotes as well. But this was one that he was happy to be in the background and let other people do. And there's probably a lot of Braves fans who wish that he had done that a little bit earlier during his time with the Braves. But eventually he did, and then they got really good. And that's what he said. He said later on, like, once he stopped really staying involved with the Braves, that's when he let Bobby Cox cook and build the farm system up and build the team around pitching the way that he wanted. And then he's like, yeah, okay, Bobby needs to be the manager and let's go get John Schuerholz. And then you have one of the greatest runs for a team in any sport anywhere with the success that they had. And that was because Ted took the step back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was, for me, selfishly, I enjoyed the piece that you put together about it.
Yeah, I love digging into that kind of stuff and connecting the dots. And that was one that I've admired what Ted Turner did in Atlanta and what he did in broadcast and how he went about it. Because he didn't come from the broadcast media world. That wasn't where he developed. He's a genius. I mean, I don't think there's any real question. There shouldn't be that one of the just smartest people you could ever find. And a lot of it was street smarts. And a lot of it, there were a lot of other, academic smarts too. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But he also just had a way of understanding anything. And I think the Braves were a prime example of that, where when he bought the team because, again, it was a TV property and he needed the programming and he didn't want it to leave the city. And yeah, I think there probably were by that point, pretty strong feelings about helping the city and understanding like kind of the civic responsibility and all that. But he went to spring training that next season, the first season that he owned the team, and basically like took a crash course in baseball and knew more than a lot of owners did by the end of that spring training. He was just a very intelligent guy. And I think in broadcast, he didn't come at it as he knew it needed to be on TV. He knew it was an opportunity to better inform the world. And he saw that as something that was needed then, and it's definitely needed now. It's a very important, again, responsibility to take on. And he did that. And he did not editorialize. And I think he had a lot of issues with people who were in similar positions who went into the media space and used it as a way to push editorial. He didn't do that. He let his people do their jobs. And I think anybody that you talk to that came up through CNN and spent time when he was in charge of it would do anything for him. He treated his people well. He ended up doing very well for himself, but it was not a straight line of pure success. Like, he went through a lot of struggles in his life in general, but he went through a lot of struggles to make these things that, maybe we take for granted, like Cartoon Network or CNN or, all the things that the UN Foundation now is able to do worldwide. Like, he went through a lot to get into those positions for those things to exist and sacrificed for his people. So that was always something that stood out to me about him.
Anything else from the ribbon cutting today that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that was a thread for me was Dan Cathy and talking about like the importance of home and tying it to the bigger picture of U.S. soccer not really having their own home. It's just different. I mean, we're in a different world now where we all are able to work remotely for the most part in different places and do different things. And there's a lot of good that comes from that. But there's also a lot of good from having a place where people come to one place to work together, because conversations happen that just naturally happen that wouldn't happen any other way. There are then like literal meetings and brainstorming sessions and things like that are planned and happen too. Don't get me wrong, but it's sometimes the informal conversations that change it. I think the shared knowledge is probably the biggest thing that could help U.S. soccer. And this is a comparison to like a club environment where you're at a club environment. Let's use Barcelona as an example because it's a multi-sport club environment. And this was something that Pep Guardiola talked about during his time there. He would talk to the basketball coaches and he would talk tactics and theory with the basketball coaches. And they'd be like, well, we think about it like this. And he'd be like, well, how does that translate to a soccer field? And they would have these conversations that if you're not in the same place, you don't get to have. So now you're going to have Emma Hayes there and you're going to have the youth national team coaches there. And they're going to be able to share ideas and talk. You're going to have the boys youth national team coaches and the girls youth national team coaches there. And they're going to be able to share ideas and talk. You're going to have the extended national teams there. You're going to have futsal. You're going to have power soccer. You're going to have beach. They're all going to be able to share ideas and talk. So the fact that you now have a home that you all get to be at on a regular basis and work out of, and it's yours. It's not somebody else's that you're renting for a period of time. That's going to be a big help for U.S. soccer. And I don't know how fast we see it. I don't think that's a like immediate, oh, wow, now all of a sudden it's different.
Yeah.
I think that's a process you see over this next cycle. I think really between now and 2031, soccer in this country can look very different strictly because of having a home and a headquarters to work out of.
One more thing before I let you go, and I can't thank you enough for dropping by and spending far too much time here.
Yeah, it's fine. If there's any questions, go for it. But
high school, we have the first day of 2 when it comes to the semifinals. It is today, and it is the girls' side today, boys' side tomorrow, and it looks like we're going to be in 2 places tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And girls' side, you look at matchups and just buzzing through brackets. I mean, Class A D1, you've got 4 of the top 5 in the rankings. You know, you got the same in Class A Division 2. Pike County boys and girls are doing gangbusters, and you've got once again 3 of the top 4, and then number 7 in AA. And you've got some old friends that might be paired up in AAA if certain things go. When you look at the playoffs, what has stuck in your head so far as we've gotten to this point?
I mean, Monday I had a chance to go up to Rome and see Model play on the girls' side, and they were great. The 6-0 win over Jeff Davis. And this is I love seeing these kind of stories, and that's why I wanted to go to that game specifically because, you always wonder, it's a single A school. It's in Rome, Georgia. You wonder what it's going to feel like. And it felt like Rome, Georgia embracing soccer. It was very cool. They had their own things that they did, their own sounds that they played. When the team scored a goal, they had stuff going on with the PA. They had a bunch of friends and family and all that in the building. And you had noise, and it was cool. It was a good win for the team, but I love the feeling of it. They were very good, and they've got, I think, a lot of young players in that group. You mentioned Pike County. They've been really good lately. 3A, Johnson of Gainesville, a team that we followed on the boys' side quite a bit. Their girls have just constantly gotten better every single year, and they're in their first Final Four. It's a tough trip for them over to Oconee County, but the fact that they've got here and they're continuing to progress, that's awesome to see. It could be an Oconee County Jefferson final in 3A, 2 programs that know one another very well. 2 of the top programs. Jefferson has been so close so many times. Can they get that trophy this year? Going through Oconee County, if Oconee County gets through Johnson, that's not going to be easy. 4A, you look at that one. It is your private schools, which you would expect, but then Midtown is in the mix. They're hosting Blessed Trinity tonight.
Yep.
Westminster at Marist, 2 teams that know one another extremely well. 5A, Greenbrier, is this the year for them to kind of get over that hump? From the Augusta area, Pope's got to go over there in a semifinal. Roswell and Chambly is a great semifinal on the other side of the bracket. 6A has been tough because I think the 2 teams that we thought were the best 2 in the state from what we saw played in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
You heard that on the network on Monday. West Forsyth getting through with their win. They host Denmark tonight. Harrison hosting Walton. Walton has been top. West Forsyth has been top. Brookwood has been top. If it's a West Forsyth Walton final, now Walton's got to go on the road.
Yes.
That's still an unbelievable game coming up next week. On the private side, and it's always interesting now that you have the smaller private schools broken out into their own section, and you don't have like Marist and Westminster and Blessed Trinity are in the 4A. It's always kind of weird when you see some of the matchups and you wonder how it will go. And like you saw Paideia get to the quarterfinals, couldn't get past that. Wesleyan and Lovett on that side of the bracket feels like a really difficult one over there.
1 versus 2 and 4 versus 5.
Yeah, really difficult on that side. But all I know is tomorrow I'm going to Soccer Town, USA, Dalton. I am looking forward to it for a semifinal, Marist at Dalton. How many state championships between those 2? A whole bunch. Dalton has been over, I mean, really, since 2021, I think they've been the best team in the state in all classifications in terms of consistency, in terms of getting to state championships, in terms of deep runs, talent, all of it. They have been the most consistent. But it's Marist. Like it's not easy. It's going to be a tough trip for Marist. St. Pius found that out against Dalton on Tuesday night. They couldn't get through Dalton. Dalton hosting Marist tomorrow, Midtown, at Walnut Grove on the other side of 4A. 5A, the other one that we know well is Johns Creek, and I believe you are planning on that one. Is that done?
Yeah, I think it's done, considering that I just got an email from one of the members of the athletic department sitting here saying that we are interested in coordinating with the GHSA, and that is both true and true. So
okay. So Johns Creek at Decatur also on the network tomorrow. That's a big game. Johns Creek has been great this season, and we had a chance to see them really early on. They had to kind of battle through the first round, getting through Woodward, but then a 7-0 win over Habersham Central, a 7-1 win over Riverwood. On Tuesday, you had that one. Now they go to Decatur, and then on the other side, River Ridge, back-to-back state championships. They're hosting Gainesville, who's been a little bit of a surprise.
And River Ridge gets through McIntosh on the air.
Yeah, River Ridge had to get through McIntosh, which was not easy and was chaotic. They had a little bit easier time of it in the quarterfinal against Dunwoody. I mean, if it's River Ridge, Johns Creek, they both know each other really well. Decatur can absolutely play spoiler on that, even though they're at home. I think I'd call them the underdog in this game. River Ridge will be the favorite at home. Gainesville was third in their region. They've made a great run. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be tough for them to go to River Ridge and get that win. That will be a wild game in the 5A. Both semifinals should be wild. Whatever we get in the final should be great. So I'm really looking forward to some of this. The other story that we would love to see is another team we had a chance to see earlier this season at the Creek Cup, Islands. Mm-hmm. They're hosting a semifinal tomorrow night. Jefferson's got to make the long trip down to Islands. Islands could absolutely be in a state championship game in Duluth in 3A coming up next week.
I did the math on Red Clay. Jefferson will have traveled in their last 3 rounds, if you include the matchup to Islands.
Ooh, yeah, I'm looking at it now. Wow.
A total of 1,298 miles from Jefferson to Tunnel Hill and back.
They hosted Johnson of Savannah.
Yeah.
In round 1. Then they went to Northwest Whitfield and won 3-1.
Yeah. Then they go to Bainbridge.
Then they went to Bainbridge and won 4-1. Now they got to go to Islands.
Uh-huh.
See if they can get through that one.
1,298 miles on those 3 trips.
Duluth would be an easy trip for them if they can get to that point.
Yeah, just go down 316.
That one's pretty smooth, but Island's the number 1 team in 3A. That is gonna be a tough one for Jefferson.
Yeah, more keeping an eye on Coach Brantley and seeing if we can catch up with him at some point as well.
An Eagles Landing grad, I will add.
Mm-hmm. So it's been fun to see Islands continue to grow under Justin Brantley too.
Mm-hmm.
What should we anticipate on the network from coverage today?
We will have written article. We will have a short video. We will have other stuff about where we were this afternoon and morning in Fayetteville. We will have a training ground notebook with some comments from Alexei Moranchuk and Matt Edwards from yesterday. Tomorrow morning, you'll get morning espresso before, actually, it'll probably be definitely before 9 o'clock because I'll need to be on the road right after 9 o'clock to get to Atlanta United training. You will get a training ground dispatch on the network. You will get a training ground notebook on the network. And then Madison and I will be in a car and driving to Dalton for the match with Dalton and Marist. Maybe, we'll probably be ahead of the Marist buses, I would hope.
Yeah, and so that'll be on the network on the mothership tomorrow afternoon.
I got the intersection tonight on 92.9 The Game. We're going to be talking a little bit of soccer. We'll probably be talking about Shakira teased the new World Cup song, thankfully, because some of the others I wasn't really a big fan of. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking some WNBA because that season's about to start. We'll be talking all kinds of stuff at the intersection. I mean, last week was a Hawks postgame show, and that was not easy. So we'll get into all kinds of things on the intersection tonight at 10 o'clock on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app.
Yes. Go catch your breath. Go get a meal. We'll listen to you tonight.
Woo!
Exactly. There he goes. That's Jason. And so Jason's going to go get dinner, and he's going to go do the things. And so we do have our finals in Europa and Europa Conference. That is officially after time. It was Villa 4-1 in the aggregate after winning 4-0 today. Freiburg hangs on. They beat Braga 4-3. So it is Villa and Freiburg in Europa League. And in Champions League, Europa Conference League, that's where we're going. So Conference League, it was Happy to Be Here FC getting the win. I think it was 5-2 in the aggregate, and Rayo Vallecano beat Strasbourg 2-0. So it is Crystal Palace and Rayo Vallecano on the 27th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And Crystal Palace is already a minus 118 favorite. So that is where we are with that. Let's see there was something else I thought. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. That's what we're doing. If you have, and we're going to be kind of keeping an eye on it tonight. Remember, it is it is keeping an eye on what's going on in the GHSA. We'll let you know what's going on there. Tomorrow we're going to have both SDH AM and Red Clay. And we'll kind of load things up in Red Clay. A little bit, we're going to be catching up with Alex Zimmerman, the head coach at East Hall, before they get into their run. And as they're chasing after their semifinal on the right-hand side of the bracket, we're going to catch up with them and find out about their run. And also efforting another couple of coaches. We'll get through your brackets, get your highlights and all that. Now, it's going to look a little different tomorrow. We are efforting a leadoff coach for our boys coverage from the GHSA because we know his class schedule, and we're hoping that we can catch up with this particular coach to bat leadoff. If not, then we will find out about Major League Soccer. We'll do juice boxes, previews, refs, all that kind of stuff. Efforting our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, Michael Parkhurst and or Greg Garza, saw the tease about the video with Parkey and Guzan on the golf course. We all should be very frightened. Ramsey Sandoval is going to join us at 10 o'clock from Apple TV. 10:30, it's going to be Nico Moreno joining us because he normally joins us at 10:30 on Thursday mornings because we were heading to the training center. It's 10:30 tomorrow morning, and hopefully if Nico is at 10:30, if Nino has survived his Universidad match tonight, he will join us hopefully after then at 11 o'clock, and we'll put a bow on the week there before we take a half hour off, come back with Red Clay at noon on Friday. So that's your rundown. Thanks to Jason for dropping by. So here's what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important to you because it helps them, it helps us, and it helps you add to the streaming services and all the matches that you already have as a part of your universe. And with Fanatis, you get all the BNs, and I mean all the BNs, which means you get every match that they have from every league that they have. It is Turkish league. It is French league. It is Polish league. It is Libertadores. It is Sudamericana. It is linking into CATV. It is linking into Tigo Sports. It is linking into everything AFCON. You get CAF, you get AFCON, you get Champions League, you get qualifying, everything on the African continent. You get that with all the BNs. You get TVV if you want to add it out of Venezuela. If you've got cable, you may not necessarily have to. You've got CDO out of Chile, TSA out of Argentina, a lot of the A and B leagues in a lot of other countries in South America at your disposal, and that's on Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here. Libertadores doubleheader tonight on BN. Sudamericana is in between Mirasol and LDU Quito in about 20 minutes. 8:30, it is Carabobo and River Plate, 10 o'clock Junior and Cerro Porteño. CBS Sports Network had Europa League, BN Español simulcasting Libertadores and Sudamericana. If you haven't had the chance, give a listen to our friend Howard Hamilton and the Soccer Metrics Copa Libertadores show. It's a quick little rundown. You can listen to it by the time we sign off, and you go and start watching matches. You're up to date on Libertadores. We had a couple of folks simulcasting Europa League tonight, USL Championship on the Plus, Birmingham Legion and the Miami FC. Let's see, and that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll get into tomorrow, but that's it for tonight. Literally tonight is Sudamericana and Libertadores. That's on BN. You can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. GHSA tonight starting around 6 o'clock. A lot of different venues. We're going to try and catch up with coaches in Red Clay tomorrow to get you set up for Monday and Tuesday. Next week, Red Clay will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because Luke Winstall and I will be at Upson Lee for the Class Single A Championships, Division I, Division II. That's on Thursday and Friday of next week. In the interim, that is where we go for yet another go-round of SDH PM Emergency Edition, because we had to let you know what happened today down at the ribbon cutting of the U.S. Soccer, the Arthur M. Blank U.S. Soccer National Training Center. Very, very cool moment there, and we wanted to kind of bring you into it as quickly as we could, considering it was an hour from there through traffic on 285 for me to get back here in one piece. So thanks to Jason for hanging out, and thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us on the emergency bat signal version of SDH and SDH PM. So enjoy everything. Thanks, Hutch. Thanks, Ricky, for dropping by and being a part of everything that we were able to talk about today. Thanks to D. Graham for dropping in as well and discussing what was going on out in Rockdale County going up against Clint Mathis. Very, very cool. Let's see. So it was Hutch and Ricky and D. Graham, and I think that is everyone that joined on the Twitch pitch. So I think we're good. So there we go. All right. So back at it again, 9:05 in the morning. Once again, we'll have 2 matches tomorrow on the network. We'll be at Decatur for one. We'll be at Dalton for another. Busy day for Jason and Maddie tonight and tomorrow, and they're going to head up north, and then everybody's going to come back down Saturday for LAG and for Atlanta United. So for everybody here, to all of you there, thanks for coming in and being a part of SDH PM. Since it is the end of the show, that means we get to do this, and we'll catch up with you again 9:05 tomorrow morning. Strap in. It's going to be a very, very busy weekend, kicking off in 16 hours or 15 hours and 20 minutes. Bye.